Audio. All right. Welcome, everybody. Here we go. Just finished the setup. Wait for this to load itself. Come on. Dismiss that. Sure the volume's turned down just in case anything suddenly pops on. That's live chat. That's the live chat. All right, so that's good. Bookmark set. All right, and while waiting for people to show up, I want to test something for potential use in another stream. I want to see just how laggy Flight Radar 24 might make things. No, not too much. Bring up the information without too much lag. Wow. Okay. I mean, hopefully. Let me look at the playback just to make sure. It doesn't look like it's lagging on the playback either. Okay, we might actually be able to use Flight Radar 24 in the future for some stuff. As I was going to have some for fun streams where we go focus in on particular airports and calculate the total amount of jet fuel being consumed, which would only be for the outbound flights, because remember, a specific set of flights is technically between two airports, and only the flight that is leaving uses fuel at that specific airport because that's the airport that it's being refueled at. So we should be able to actually use that in the future without too much lag then. All right, let's get over to the world map. Blah, blah, blah. Shut these down. Close that. Put that over there. All right. Let's see. Do we have anybody else here? Or is it just Andrew? 6 people, supposedly just Andrew in chat. All right. So while we're waiting a few more minutes, just go over some random things. Excuse me. Are we busted? We're busted. Okay, hold on. Let's fix this. We do that. Then we do that. Excuse me. No, I said the mouse cursor. Then we go back in and it should work. Yes. Okay. All right. So while we're waiting for more people to show up, India continues climbing rapidly and set a new demand record, averaging out over March up to this point in March. There's still a few days, but basically the whole month has gone by at this point, where uh, they were constantly coming in, popping up each day to around 270 gigawatts of demand load. The previous the previous 2 years, they were getting up at the highest points of the year to around 250 each. They stopped progressing upwards at the higher points last year because they had more cloud cover and more rain during the months that were usually the hottest, so that kept it from getting as hot as it otherwise would. But also over the low points of last year, towards the end of the year, and into the parts of winter that still lasted into this year, they also hit the point where their low demand levels, averages for the months of the lower demand months, were staying above 200. So you can roughly gauge that now as 200 to around 210 as of the start of this year is what their rough demand is probably usually averaging without cooling, without weather weather varying cooling systems or ACs. So about an extra 60 to as much as 70 when it gets super hot and every AC unit in the country is on. And their hottest months are usually the spring months because once it hits the end of spring and gets into summer, then it turns into monsoon season and starts mega flood raining. And so the sun is constantly being obscured, and also water is dousing and cooling everything. So it's actually not as hot in the summer as it is during the spring months. And to plug myself, as always, I don't just do the videos and the streams. A lot of my time and work also goes to maintaining the databases. Actually, hold on. It should be in the description under the stream as well. Go into the description, yeah, here, or under any video, the free access drive. Click that link and it will take you to this free to access Google Drive folder with folders and subfolders full of all kinds of different graphs. In this case, we were looking at electricity demand, so we'll look at electricity demand graphs. These have not been updated to the most recent numbers yet. So I'm about to do that for the electricity video. But here's India's average electricity demand load varying month to month, where you can see as they got more and more access to indoor cooling systems, the swings and fluctuations or the differences between the low point and high point of the year started to get bigger and bigger. So I'll be updating those soon and put that video out also in like a day or two. But you can access any of these graphs at any time for free. There will never be a paywall. I'm not like all these websites that are betraying everybody, like tdeconomics.com, that used to provide free graphs and data to everyone. But if you try to go back more than 10 years now, for anything, you hit the paywall. There is no paywall for the MaxoGear database. It is free. Any payment stuff is awesomely appreciated, but is completely optional. And I actually enjoy making graphs, as weird as that sounds. So I would keep making and updating that stuff regardless. But anyways, that was the big non-war related news blip. Now we're going to go on to things that happened, and I will check chat first. Let's see. Don't keep talking to yourself endlessly too much. You don't want to enter my mental spam folder threshold. Okay, let's see. We ended up getting confirmation on the ballistic missile strike on that one airbase in Saudi Arabia. The claim from the Iranian side was that 5 in-air refueling tankers were destroyed. The claim from the US side initially was that 0 were. The real number ended up obviously being in between the two, and the real number came out to 2. So that is 3 tankers that have been lost through the conflict so far. One of them was at the airbase was completely destroyed. It exploded. Another one didn't like fully explode, but it took some pretty heavy damage, enough to get written off. Like you could see wing had like detached and fallen off, and then it was like busted in 2 pieces, and then the engines were like kind of all scrambled up on the ground. So that is basically a total loss. So that's 2 that were taken out in that strike because the satellite imagery finally got released. The let's see, after the U.S. Withheld strikes on any energy and critical infrastructure, as we said and all knew, Israel was not really interested in letting Iran keep anything. So, starting last night, the IDF started bombing energy sites and random actual like societal functioning infrastructure. We're not talking about the like the military production factories and stuff that have been bombed in Isfahan and elsewhere. And now we're talking about like just regular things like power plants and steel mills. Two of Iran's larger steel mills were hit overnight. They have a total of 57 throughout the country, of which roughly like 20 are large ones of like significant scale that produce like can are capable of producing more than 1 million tons of steel per year. And two of those were taken out. I think they were both around, one of them was like 1.2, the other was like 1.5 million for their tonnage capacity per year. So the US has opted out of striking on like power plants and critical infrastructure stuff, but Israel kind of like has blatantly, openly said in public speeches that they want Iran to turn into a Syria-esque slash Libya failed state. So they're gonna do that unless, as I thought we were doing in a few days ago, but apparently not, unless the U.S. actually chokes and pulls back on that vassal state lease. But those strikes happened on those plants and everything. The negotiations with the current representatives in Tehran are were finally confirmed by both sides, and both sides have now said that uh, it's not tonight, that the negotiations are going to apparently take between 2 to 4 weeks, which kind of just what that actually means is that both sides sort of, as weird and coldly calculated as it might sound for lay people to hear, uh, agreed with each other at the table that they both agreed in a gentleman's agreement to keep fighting for another 2 to 4 weeks to see who can achieve what. As strategy wise, Iran's strategy, at least as it probably was initially, although all the decapitation strikes and communication breakdowns resulted in a lot more wacky stuff like attacking some embassies and consulates and wasting munitions on attacking like random luxury hotels in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, whereas everything really should have been concentrated on strategic targets. It probably was the plan to concentrate on strategic targets, but in the communication breakdown, individual like local crews launching the stuff probably just started Googling important landmarks and like embassy locations and started punching in numbers when they launched the missiles. Iran's strategy, uh, now, especially with retrospect, for the last 4 weeks, appears pretty clear. Is to just cause as much of a, to use a World War II reference, whirl a Operation Cartwheel kind of thing with like rat sporadically spread the damage around. Although, again, randomly striking some like luxury hotels wasn't the most strategic thing to do. But their idea is to keep things going incessantly and make it look like they can, like their arsenal is effectively infinite, and keep as long as the insurance companies are telling their ships or the companies that own the oil tankers to not move, which is the primary reason most of them have not moved, because Iran did, although that ended up changing up, we'll talk about that in a second. Iran did say that, certain tankers are allowed to leave, ones heading to or from Pakistan, India, and China, which would have allowed oil going elsewhere to get elsewhere because tankers could just go to said countries, uh, pull into port for a day, and then leave and head off to a different country, which is what was happening with Russian crude oil tanker shipments for a while. Is they would head down to India, pull into harbor, stay there overnight, and then immediately leave and go to like a different destination. So even though that is allowed, most of the insurance companies are still telling the shipment companies that they will not cover the ships anyways. So most of them are still staying in the Gulf, although there has been a gradual trickle being allowed in and out. So apart from spreading the damage around to everybody and keeping prices and pressure up high and keeping the whole Gulf constrained via just the vague idea of the threat, Iran's strategy has become pretty clear to just wait out the price damage and assume that eventually, because the one thing ultimately that the US, uh, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and everyone, uh, and basically the entire rest of the world desire over all else is economic stability or a return to economic normal. So they're assuming that if they just keep this up and keep oil prices, the real physical delivery prices, not the prices on the market, because the market is really bad at nothing ever happens posting. The actual physical crude oil delivery prices being paid by countries, ports, and everything receiving oil tankers has been fluctuating between $140 and $173 a barrel. So Iran is operating on the heavily likely correct assumption that eventually the outside world will just blink in the contest and won't be able to actually tolerate that for that long, and will eventually uh, go in, exit the war via facade mode of just deciding to publicly declare that enough stuff was destroyed in Iran to be equivalent to a victory. So their angle, their portion of the intending equally, along with the U.S., both agreeing to drag negotiations out for the next 2 to 4 weeks, is them operating on the assumption that the the global economic system is not going to willingly tolerate another 2 to 4 weeks of this kind of disruption, especially since once we pass like the first week or two of April, a lot of, especially in Asian countries, like heavy actual constraints are going to have to start being placed on fuel and petrochemical usage, which would then trickle down and filter out through the rest of the global economy, which would then put overt pressure on the US, at least, to stop. Uh, Israel, like I said, and like everybody knows, will just keep going no matter what. And I would guarantee you Iran has like conceded to and agreed with the U.S. almost certainly to uh, that that's just going to be like an inevitable reality, but probably also part of that, just like after the supposed ceasefire of the 12-day war last year, is probably also like an agreement that Iran's just going to keep shooting back at Israel, and we won't actually do anything about that. And so even after this officially, the whole big show ends, these two will still keep sporadically firing at each other no matter what. And we just kind of won't really poke into it. Uh, I'll check chat in a second. So calm yourselves if you guys are going crazy. Some uh, getting a bit spicy in the Balochistan region. The various Baloch separatist groups have, over the last few days, started a new campaign of uh, abrupt, rapid, in and out, kill and dash, or DoorDash, DuckDuckGo, ambushes of the Revolutionary Guard and security forces, quite literally going in like little hatchback cars and just pulling up next to a because the Revolutionary Guard and the internal security forces have various like checkpoints and stuff set up along the different highways. Just rolling up to like the checkpoints, rolling down the windows and popping some AKs out and just mowing down the other guys at the checkpoints. So uh, some not like uprising stuff, but some fiery stuff and fight back is starting to pick up a little bit in the Balochistan region. Okay. Let's see. Uh, no, the ones that have been actually removed are some in Iraq and the Navy base, the naval installation in Bahrain. Everybody there was relocated to Oman and the UAE, and the personnel at bases in Iraq were moved to Jordan and Israel. The uh, the ones in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia are still there, but Iraq and Bahrain were cleared out, and uh, we're still on base in Qatar, but Qatar apparently seems to have made some kind of behind the doors agreement with Iran. I don't know any specifics of it, but Iran has really over it's shifted in this direction over like the last week. They seem to have diverted and really avoided striking Qatar for the most part, with a few exceptions. But again, there's communication and dissemination issues. So a few like individual crews have still plugged in Qatari coordinates into their Shahed drones, but the amount of actual like focus fire on Qatar has dropped significantly over the last week, which is interesting. Most likely agrees that there's some kind of agreement they've made with Iran to stop striking them for the most part. But even before everything started, they were always uh, the one among the Persian Gulf nations. Oman, technically more so, but they're not a Persian Gulf nation. They're outside the Gulf. But Qatar, among the Persian Gulf nations, was always the one that was actually always the most directly communicating with Iran. The invasion of southern Lebanon by the IDF continues. And again, their stated thing is that they're going to take hold of this, roughly this whole general area, and have already admitted that they're going to stay there permanently after the war, for the sake of uh, they even started adding some of the like BS stuff. Well, for the sake of the safety of the people of southern Lebanon, they're going to the IDF's going to permanently stay there, as well as continuing to just happenstancely level Beirut. There were some more massive bombing runs that they did today. A few more 100 people dead. Before that, the official civilian death count was between 1,100 and 1,200, but a couple hundred people suspected to have died today. So that would be like a sudden jump up to between 13 or 1,400, which is, again, part of the IDF for the whatever. No, Mossad's like Mossad's more like an operative thing. I don't know what's their, like when you talk about U.S. strategic screen pullers, you just say the Pentagon. What's Israel's equivalent of like military command staff decision making, uh, one word equivalent? But the idea behind their various strategies has, at least to me, seemed pretty obvious. Keep up, whether they allow breaks in it or not from here on in, of like a year or two at a time. Keep up the incessant bombing campaigns in Lebanon, especially in Beirut. Continue with ground operations and invasion stuff in the south, and constantly A, killing people for one, B, forcing people out and around into displacement, and having their homes destroyed, etc. Uh, Continuing to disrupt the function of the country altogether, thus just continuing to make Lebanon overall unlivable, and thus continuing to suppress the Lebanese population and keep causing it to continue going down. As Lebanon's birth rate as of this year is already down to around like 1.6, and their population as a whole peaked between 8 and 9 million back around 2000. And ever since the 2006 Lebanon war, it's been going down and is now down to around 5.7 million. Not because of actual like old age dying out yet, but primarily because the drastically dropped birth rate combined with outbound migration from Lebanon, as anyone with like the remote ability to leave has been leaving for the last 20 years, which is what Israel wants to encourage and cause to continue, so that Lebanon continues to shrink population wise, and thus also, but not just from the population, but also from all the damage that Israel does from constantly leveling Beirut and stuff, continue to economically shrink, and thus they'll continue to shrink in terms of being a entity that matters. Their overall pool, because of the falling birth rate and the number of young people leaving Lebanon, their overall pool for new Hezbollah members to emerge from will thus continue massively contracting, and eventually we'll get to a point where, for one, they won't be able to, via Hezbollah, uh, cause or present that much of a massive threat anymore, and also will lose their ability to really contest Israel holding the southern portion of Lebanon, which they will eventually uh, officially or unofficially annex, which no one will recognize, obviously, just like they're going to do to the zone that they're holding inside of Syria. And eventually, I will 95% almost guarantee you they're eventually going to resume and start doing something similar to Syria as well, because Syria looks like it's starting to reconstitute itself into a functional society a bit too much. And people have been returning to Syria. In fact, close to 2 million people, Syrians who had fled Syria during the course of the civil war, have over the past over the past year and 3 months, or year and 4 months since the fall of Assad, close to 2 million have actually returned to Syria. So I almost guarantee you Israel's eventually going to start pulling a Lebanon and Syria to try to prevent a recoalescence and re-encourage exodus once again for the same reasons that they've continued doing stuff to Lebanon. Gaza, similar deal. Like I said, they've already been bulldozing everything in the north of Gaza, and kind of like the settlement stuff in the West Bank. They're probably not going to officially announce anything like an annexation immediately, but you're just going to start seeing settler houses start popping up, and they're just going to like deny knowing anything about it. The idea behind Gaza, obviously, wreck the whole place. That's happened. Uh, Clear out a fair bit of Hamas. That's happened. There, Hamas is still there, but they barely have like anything to do. Like every few weeks, they launch like a dozen bottle rockets, basically. And the idea also with Gaza, similar to Lebanon, is in Gaza's case, initially just stop the population from increasing and push it down and down and continue to forcibly constrict the Hamas pool, and now institute and maintain total in and outflow control so that there's no means of weapons getting into the Gaza Strip, and eventually kick everybody out and just quietly annex the place eventually. But number of people still, the number of people in Gaza who are actually alive is probably around 1.5 million. Something like 100,000 or so actually got to leave. And throughout summer of last year, there were a few slip ups both on Israel and the US's part of casually accidentally admitting that the death toll in Gaza was in the hundreds of thousands and not only 80,000 as was previously claimed. Or actually, sorry, it was previously claimed to only be like 50 or 60, but at the end of summer in either August or September, Israel publicly admitted something like, okay, maybe it's closer to like 80 or 90. And there's a chance that they'll slow walk that and constantly do more tacit admissions like, okay, well, maybe it actually is over 100,000, but it's definitely not over 200,000. In reality, it seems to be probably around 1.6, as there's no real like record keeping left. The only gauge anybody has is since everyone's like packed in to two real areas, the main gauge we have is from the crisis workers and food providers and stuff that are allowed in there, and their reports of the amount of people actually in camp and who actually show up for food and or treatment, and that number has obviously just kept going down and down, and no one's getting out of Gaza, not being allowed out yet. They'll eventually be kicked out probably, but so you can take a guess. I hope you can take a guess at least as to what's happening to these people. So yeah, probably something like maybe 1.6 million people left there, unknown, and where they intend to eventually be kicked out to. I don't know, once the number is like low enough for the recipient country to find acceptable. No idea. There's been ideas floated around that like supposedly it's going to be Libya, supposedly it's going to be Somaliland. No one actually knows. But yeah, that's the consistent strategy it seems. And now, and also, even if they never actually take Gaza in annexation, it is constantly maintaining a state of desperation and unlivability, which, would and has behind the scenes kind of crashed the birth rate. No one's actually been like properly tracking that over the last couple of years since October 7th because, everything's gone there. But they're also now doing the same thing in the West Bank. As you may have seen over the last few weeks, uh, roving roving like marauder bands of settlers in the West Bank basically have been going around unimpeded and like just banging on people's houses and like forcing them out at gunpoint and just taking the houses, and so the people are forced to go who knows where, live with some relatives, maybe if they have any, live on the streets. Uh, they've been killing people if they refuse. The deaths that we know about are only like 40 or 45 or so. So rapidly now turning everybody loose in the West Bank, basically, and trying to turn up the fire of unlivability there to suppress any, to potentially, in the hopes of the government in Jerusalem, cause a drop in birth rate along with an encouragement of those who find some means to, or if they just wander across the river, leave into the only real option they have is Jordan because Jordan's right there. So this extreme induced unlivability seems to be the Israeli strategy for Lebanon, Gaza, and Jerusalem. Although Gaza, because of the mass starvation and medical deprivation, is effectively just a quiet extermination campaign at this point. But induced unlivability seems to be the general strategy, and I highly doubt they're going to not start reapplying things to Syria. The only reason they weren't really doing things directly to Syria through the 2010s and early 2020s was because the Syrian civil war was going on, so they didn't really have to. Syria was doing that to itself. Like the Syrian population even stopped at about 18 million over for like 12 years because just enough people were dying and just enough people were constantly leaving. And the birth rate in Syria fell from like 3.5 down closer to 2 nowadays. That it basically kept the population flat. Now the population's doing this, though. It started creeping up, and now it's taken a jump up over the last year because of all the people that have returned. So they're almost certainly going to start applying a similar strategy to Syria as well. The only one they're probably in the short term, at least, not going to do anything to is Jordan, because Jordan is effectively both their vassal and a U.S. vassal, which would then, by deference, make them an Israeli vassal. So Jordan's not a source of threat that the IDF is concerned about. If they're genuinely going after the whole greater Israel project, then they will probably eventually start doing stuff to Jordan. But in the immediate term, it's just going to be Gaza, the West Bank, and Lebanon, and soon enough they'll start doing stuff to Syria again. But we are drifting apart. Both the regular Western allies in Israel have been drifting apart because of Israel like I said earlier in the stream, wants Iran to become a crippled, failed state, whereas the rest of us don't, because a country of at the time 18 million, Syria, already caused a massive refugee crisis that nobody liked. A 90 million person country, Iran, would cause a much bigger refugee crisis that uh, Europe in particular is not interested in dealing with. All right. Is that the extent of that stuff? I think so. Let me drink some water and look at chat. Okay, I'll let. Ooh, $10. Thank you. Cash money. Uh, the the yeah, the West Coast is going to get into well, California at least is going to get into an even worse situation in terms of fuel supplies. Let me draw a gas pump here. Oh, there's the thing, there's the handle, there's the sticker pump thing. California is, yes, shutting down all their stuff. I don't know if it's specifically in Seattle, but there's stuff up in Washington. I don't know the extent of the capacity, but California has continued committing suicide, yes. Uh, it's not going to make fuel unavailable. It's just going to make it even more expensive than it already is, because there are some pipelines, but their capacity is limited. So other stuff will have to be, if Seattle has spares, floated down and or sent down through the canal and up around from somewhere in the eastern portion of the U.S. But California is a doomed dead country, anyways. So no offense to you guys, but I kind of just disregard you from the beginning. But yes, that is a thing that continues happening. But California's probably still obsessed with and uh, still convinced that like literally every vehicle is going to be an electric vehicle in the next 10 years or something, which they said 5 years ago and then 5 years before that. So we are already past the initial 10-year point where like all the vehicles in California were supposed to be electric vehicles. We're already past that first point where it was supposed to happen, yet it hasn't happened. It's like fusion reactors. They're totally coming, guys. It's totally going to be real. Let's see. How far did I go down? Okay, this is where I left off. Yeah, that is that they've been letting stuff out. Although, I said I was going to touch on that. We have no evidence of the actual mining. Uh, the the passing through their islands thing is at their insistence because they want to see the ship and make sure it is who it claims to be. Because before this, ships were passing through the strait quietly by just turning off their locator signal and turning off all their lights and just running dark. Not run silent, run deep, but run silent, run dark. And Iran said that you're allowed to pass through the strait, but you need to have your stuff on and come through the islands. So tankers of countries that Iran has quote unquote allowed, I, i.e., those going to or coming from Pakistan, India, and China, uh, have kept their stuff on and kept their lights on and passed through this closer channel here, but are whether the country or the company pays it are required to pay around 2 million. Except up until today, though, as of today, Iran suddenly declared uh, and said they're not even with the fee, they're not going to permit anybody through. There was no time frame specified, and they even refused some of China's tankers, which is not a really good strategic move on their end because China is like effectively everything for them right now. So refusing to let tankers go for like the country that supplies you with everything is not the best idea. So I something's going on with the there's probably some kind of big disagreement among whoever the most recent round of new leadership is, because that one was like not a wise move to make, but oh well. China could pretty easily threaten to just like cut them off from electronics and stuff and whatever else they constantly ship into them overland and by flight into the untouched portion of the country over and up in here, and that will probably get Iran to turn its opinion around on that. Let's see. So, uh, nukes, guys, need to stop obsessing over the nukes. Look, the one again, there are two instances where nukes will get used. One is Pakistan firing first on India once we go past the tipping point into the full water war, because they can't actually let their like 80% water source get cut off and diverted, because that would mean the deaths of hundreds of millions of people. And the other is if Israel actually like got invaded by somebody, then they have, you know, the whole Samson doctrine of like, if Egypt invades again and they succeed and start like pushing deep into Israel, then Israel will nuke Cairo and Alexandria and Al Kubra and like every city or whatever. Like I know I've seen all the big popular political streamers like Hassan the dog electrocutor, you know, saying that any day now Israel is going to just randomly nuke Tehran or something. I really don't understand the apparent mentality behind said prediction. Let's see, my anything random stuff. Uganda has randomly pledged that if if Israel starts like actually getting like majorly attacked or invaded, that Uganda will send the Ugandan army to defend Israel. It's pretty random, but you know, okay. We got various videos and satellite imagery from the two export terminals and refinery up in around Leningrad, the Leningrad and St. Petersburg region. Yeah, this is, oops, hold on. No, drag this here. So this is how it started. Few tanks. This is how it's going. And also, yeah, this was the refinery. Here's Lebanon, or southern Lebanon at least. I don't know which direction is which, but this was a random marker from this dude. No, I need marker, not highlighter. Yeah, that was a random marker from this dude just showing where one specific combat combat footage video was from. As despite claims the IDF has been this is one of the ambush videos of Balok separatists ambushing the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Not showing that video because that is actual like close up gunshots, moment of death stuff. But yeah, in the fighting down here, there were additional losses on the IDF side that they still deny exist. One more tank was taken out along with two generic armored vehicles. But the the ratio of like IDF losses to Hezbollah losses and to like the push being made is not like I really don't understand why we're doing the thing of still insisting only like the two casualties thing. I mean, it's like literally actual infantry ground combat. People tend to die in that, and the IDF numbers aren't actually that high in terms of the casualties, versus like the casualties inflicted on Hezbollah. So there's not really a reason to be hiding that. This is a picture of what the underground missile tunnels look like in Iran. Is this is one of the two steel mills in Iran that Israel bombed after, because like I said, Israel wants Iran to become a crippled failed state. So after the U.S. said that it's not going to bomb any energy sites or critical civilian infrastructure like steel mills, literally the next day or last night, Israel started bombing them instead. That's the satellite footage confirming the two losses that I talked about earlier. That's announcing that stuff. That's yeah, stuff from the Primorsk and Leningrad area terminal and refinery. That's from really far away, so it kind of just shows a generic glowing light. Yeah, continuing to move in various airborne and rapid combat divisions in posturing to supposedly jump Karg Island and some of the other islands offshore of Iran. Whether that's like a legit thing or whether it's just to like put the negotiating pressure on out of the potential loss of Karg Island and thus the regime's only real flow of money, unknown. But there's also supposedly some some people saying that like there might be some insertion deployments to drop off near the entrance to some of the like missile city tunnels to like roll through the tunnels and put like demo charges all over the place or on the TEL vehicles and the missiles, and then blow everything after out of the tunnel and then like helo out or something. Would be a bit much to be doing and would be kind of dumb, but it's a thing that might happen. Let me scroll down further. Let's see. The Texas refinery was a case of the Texas refinery was a case of the heat exchangers failed in several points because of poor maintenance. As company, like many other companies, are starting to, and this would trigger me into my whole the stock market and shareholders are endangering civilization thing. The company was constantly practicing deferred maintenance, like many other companies do now, of instead of replacing their second components every 3 or 4 months, uh, they're like just pushing it off to every 5 or 6 months, and then even longer, and then some of them up to a year, which gets you to the point where like things explode and things fail and planes crash. But if you avoid the maintenance cost, that makes your numbers look better because you have a lower cost ratio, which then means you get more investment because you look like a more profitable company, which pumps up your numbers, which so your valuation, your equity goes up, etc. And thus that's a faster and easier way to make money. Market financialization and everything, and that whole diatribe. And the CEOs and stuff of companies rotate out in and out really quick, so they don't really care about long-term stuff unless they're like that Bob dude at Disney who wants to build his personal representative brand because he wants to run for president or some crap like that. CEOs are like in and out in like a year or two, so do whatever they can, pump the numbers, pull their billions or their hundreds of millions and leave. And also, uh, it's not just like maintenance stuff; it's also with things like even oil and gas and mining. Companies are starting to not start up new projects and instead just buy and acquisition fields and or smaller companies with already operating things so that their portfolio of what they have, their total equity value gets bigger, and thus their valuation goes up and they get more stock trading money, et cetera, et cetera. And the process continues. And this has been prevalent in Mexico, where there actually have been quite a number of new silver mine projects that could have been activated, could have been started up, and helped to alleviate the still existing uh, deficit between silver demand and supply that is very quickly dwindling global silver above ground inventories. But most of the mining companies there are just practicing the purchase and acquisition rather than sinking billions into new mining projects that will take at least 5 years before they start up and start generating money, which investors don't like. They like, immediate, big AI bubble inflation type profit. So we're, what was that one term? Uh, the world is starting to the world is starting to finance equity Ouroboros itself to death. Let me drink some more water, and I'm probably gonna have to end soon, but I'll decide in a second. Uh, let's see. Yeah, interesting thing with the Gerald Ford stuff. There is suspicion. It's not confirmed, but apparently there's suspicion among some of the like commanding officers on the ship that the crew might have conspiratorially like done that on purpose or let it happen, and not exactly put out the fire as quickly or to the best of their ability because they actually really didn't want to participate in all of this. I don't know if that's true, but it could be because I mean the people I do have contact with uh, both one chain of separation and 2 degrees of separation in the military at the moment, you know, really don't want to be a part of all of this because this is Middle East quagmire round like 15 at this point. So there is a genuine suspicion among the like commanding officers on the ship that that might have actually been done by the crew on purpose to forcibly to sort of force the Navy into a position where it has no other choice but to withdraw the ship. If that is the case, obviously they succeeded because the Ford is on its way out. But no idea or confirmation whether that's actually true or not. But it's a genuine enough suspicion that they're apparently getting the MPs and NCIS, the real one, not the TV show one, to actually thoroughly investigate the crew and try to deduce whether they did in fact do that on purpose. Oh, look, I'm actually not alone in that stock market is the death of civilization sentiment. Okay, I don't think there was anything else going on. Let me try to think. I don't have anything super major coming to mind, or at least not that's like significantly changed over just the last few days. I feel like I'm forgetting something, but yeah, whatever it is, it ain't coming up. Ugh, next. Oh yeah, let's see. The one other thing, Houthis initially had said that if the U.S. and Israel attack Iran, then they would join in and start attacking stuff. But then they had changed that over to if civilians start getting bombed in Iran, then they would do stuff. And then now, with their latest announcement, they kind of changed the threshold again. So they keep moving the goalpost for when they'll actually supposedly start attacking stuff. The reason for that isn't because they're like not willing to do it. They're actually like even more willing to do stuff than Iran was or the other radical groups up further north. But they did throw out quite a bit of what they had on hand for their arsenal because remember they don't have the magnitude of Iran's arsenal or didn't even when they had their full stuff. They did have a few hundred things, but they did launch quite a number of them, and a number were also destroyed on ground. They almost certainly still have some, but not to the point where they can probably afford to just start throwing them around wildly. Like if things go super bad, and while we hold off, Israel really does start like bombing every regular power plant in Iran, and the Houthis feel like publicity backed into a corner. They probably could and or would launch like a fair bit of what they have remaining at some of the oil and gas infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, or maybe the export port in Yambu. But the reason they keep pushing up the bar or the goalpost for when they'll actually do anything is because they don't have a huge pile of stuff anymore. They still do have stuff, but they don't have like the massive ant mounds like they did before everything. They still do have an amount of stuff, but remember, they have no longer been getting shipments of things from Iran constantly. So, what they had when they started doing things back at the end of 2023 or the start of 2024 was basically a locked in number that they had to work with for like major consequence munitions. And they have like 200,000 guys in their numbers. So if they want to, they could still like I don't know sneak across borders and start doing like generic suicide bombing. They have more than enough guys to do that. But I'm assuming before that, which would be a bit less tactical than using their remaining drones and missiles, they'll, if things get to a threshold that they can no longer keep pushing the goal up further from, like to a fourth level, then I would assume probably since they don't have a huge amount left, instead of just attacking random ships passing through the strait there, they would probably, if they're being strategic, at least. I'm constantly giving other humans the benefit of the doubt. If they're being really strategic, they would use the limited stuff they have left for like a strategic strike on Saudi oil infrastructure. Okay, that was the one other thing I was forgetting about. So now that's probably going to be where I'm going to call it. Ah, ah. All right, so I'll wait like 20 seconds for the broadcast delay before I stop. Let me check. I'm basically out of water anyway, so yeah, I need to go downstairs and get some. Close that. Close Twitter. All right, I don't see anything else popping up. Uh, yeah, no. All right, so yeah, that's probably going to be it. Thanks. I I don't know. I'm just gonna call you Tekken. It's kind of funny because my best friend and at this point my only remaining friend Josh is his brother David, who has some anger issues. He finally started talking to Josh again after a year of like refusing to have anything to do with him because Josh kind of humiliated him in Tekken, which for those unfamiliar with Tekken, it's basically Mortal Kombat but with a different name. It's a 2D back and forth across the screen fighting game. So they were at like some party or whatever at David's house, and David was like getting a bit too hyped up on himself and kept challenging Josh. And this was in front of like David's group of friends, and kept challenging Josh to fight him, and being like, come on, don't be a pussy. And Josh kept warning him like really calmly, I'm gonna beat your ass. And so eventually, since he wouldn't stop nagging him, Josh gave in and absolutely humiliate his brother. And after that, David got really David got really mad and like refused to talk to Josh for a year. I'm not even kidding, an actual year. And just last month he started actually talking to Josh again. So I'm hoping he might have learned a lesson about heeding warnings from his little brother when Josh warns him not to do something that's going to make him humiliate himself. But anyways, that's it, and I will see you guys around next time. And the electricity levels update video